Hello, I wanted to introduce myself and talk to you today about journaling for self-care. So my name is Bex Beltran, and I am a resistance coach, a podcaster, and an avid journaler and journal evangelist, so much so that I opened a journal and notebook shop last year. So back to the beginning, though, when I said resistance coach, whenever I introduce myself, a lot of people wonder, what is a resistance coach? They say, I've never heard of that before. Well, a resistance coach is someone who helps you recognize the resistance, and that's in the form of your thoughts that hold you back from getting what you want for yourself in your life. So resistance might show up like, I don't know how, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or people wouldn't like it if I did this, or I can't, or I tried before and it didn't work. Those are all resistance. And so I help people recognize that resistance and release it. And that's the name of my podcast as well. It's called Release Your Resistance. So you can listen to that and hear how I work on my resistance, how I help my clients with their resistance. And one of the areas that I love to talk about is journaling, because it has changed my life so much. And it is such an important part of my own self-care and self-development. So today I want to talk to you about some maybe non-obvious things that you could know about journaling. And so whenever I introduce the topic of journaling, I think people already have an idea if they're one of three different types of journalers. And maybe you even had that experience when I introduced myself. Maybe you thought something about, oh, I love journaling, or yeah, I know journaling is good, or maybe you thought, no, this isn't for me. So I believe there are three types of journalers, and I'll explain those to you. And I want to share with you the benefits of journaling, both my own personal benefits that I have received in my life and that I continue to see in my life, and what I believe are the benefits that you can have in your life if you decide to give journaling a try or continue journaling if you are already a journaler. And I want to talk to you about what to do if you think you can't journal, or you don't want to journal, or all the other reasons that people have about why they don't or can't or won't journal. And then I want to give you some advice or some ideas or suggestions about how you can start and how you can continue if you already do journal, just to get even more out of your practice, or see it through a different perspective, and just to share the journal love, basically. So let's dive right in to the three types of journalers. So you heard the expression, and I've modified it slightly here. There are three types of people in the world. There are journal lovers, there are journal curious, and then there are non-journalers. Maybe when I introduced myself and started talking about journals, you already kind of self-identified in one of these three groups, or maybe as I introduced these three types to you, you immediately thought, oh, I'm this or I'm that. So I would be curious just to have you self-identify right now. Do you think you are a journal lover? Are you journal curious? Are you a non-journaler? Which one do you think you are? And I will just say, I have been in, even just in the past 10 years, I would say, I've been all three of these types. So I don't think one is necessarily better than the other, and I don't think it's really a hierarchy, but I just want to point out that maybe this presentation is going to be more helpful to you when I talk about some tips for non-journalers, or maybe if you're already a journal lover, that's going to be the part of the presentation that you really care about. Long story short, there's something for all three types in this presentation. So let's talk about the journal lover first. This is who I consider, and this is my own personal definition, so it certainly is open to interpretation, but it's someone who I consider a dedicated, regular journaler. So in my case, I journal daily. It's the most important part of my day. It's non-negotiable. I design my entire life schedule around my ability to have uninterrupted time every morning to journal. I consider myself a journal lover, and I have a dedicated, regular journaling practice. And the reason, one of the reasons, there's a lot of reasons why I do this, but one of the reasons has been backed up by science. There have been research done, research studies and peer-reviewed articles that show that journaling reduces stress and anxiety. It helps to strengthen your memory. It helps your emotional function. It can improve your immune system. I mean, there are just so many documented benefits to journaling that when I see those, I think, why wouldn't we try to incorporate that into our lives? But to be a little bit more specific, getting away from the peer-reviewed and the scientific research, how has journaling improved my life? Because I've been journaling consistently for years now, I am able to go back and reread what I've written a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, and I'm able to notice patterns. And that pattern finding has been so interesting and provocative and illuminating. And I just think if you are ever given the opportunity to see the patterns and how they play out in your own life, that is a great way to learn more about yourself and how you make the decisions you make and how you think the thoughts you think. Speaking of the thoughts you think, I think journaling is a great way for me to create distance around the thoughts I think. So by writing down what I'm thinking on a sheet of paper or a page in a book with a pen that has ink in it, by actually taking it out of the fogginess and the mysterious space of my brain and putting it down in black and white on paper, I actually have now created some distance between me and that thought that I'm thinking. You might have heard the expression, you are not your thoughts. By writing down your thoughts on paper, you can actually see that you are not your thoughts. You can see your thought on paper, and then it might be easier for you to look at it objectively or to pull it apart or to dissect it a little bit. I also consider journaling my personal self-care ritual. So as I mentioned, I do it every single morning. It's my quiet time. It's the time that I'm really just focused on myself and my needs and my personal development. I use my journaling time to practice gratitude. So I frequently, almost every single day, I write down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for, and then I have a few other gratitude practices that I do as well. I use my journaling time to brainstorm and to write down great ideas that popped into my mind while I was on a walk or during my shower or while I was doing something else. When I've trained my brain now to know that when I open the journal, it's time to let all those ideas come back up so that I can write them down and develop them further and let one idea lead to the next idea. So I really get some of my most creative and powerful ideas when I brainstorm and when I write down those ideas while I journal. And I think I've said it a few times now. I really believe my journaling time, my morning time, I'm a morning person, it is the best time of my day. So by journaling during those morning hours when the rest of the house is quiet, in my case, your case might be different, but this is me really making use of the best time of my day. So there are a lot of different ways that you can have a regular journaling practice. And depending on if you are a journal lover already and have been for a long time, you might not need to employ any of these techniques. But if you're now a little bit piqued and interested and curious, and you're thinking, okay, I would love to give this a try, there are a couple of ways you could do it. So for example, you could have a prompted journal or use journal prompts. So a blank journal, that's what I use. I use a blank journal. I use graph paper. I love it. And I go in and journal freehand, stream of consciousness. That's how I journal. Although I do have different journaling routines that I do depending on the day of the week and the day of the month and where I am in my cycle. So there's different things that I have really evolved into through my regular journaling practice. But going back to what you could do is you could use journaling prompts. And I've got some to share with you at the end of this presentation, or you can use a blank journal. You can also, there are different styles of writing and journal keeping. So there's a practice called morning pages, and it's a pretty specific guidelined practice where you specifically write down, I think it's 3 pages, stream of consciousness, no judgment, no censorship, with the belief and the awareness that those pages are not to be read later or held against yourself in any way. So it's really just a chance to clear everything in your mind out onto paper. The 1 line a day journals are kind of fun because it takes all the pressure off. So you still have a regular journaling practice of journaling every single day, but the only expectation is that it's a single line. And I've seen one where you have, I think it's 3 or maybe 5 years in a row, and every line, you just, every day you write one line, and then the next year you come back on that same page on that same day and you write one more line. And it's very interesting to see the one-liners years apart, but they're all collected there on the same page for you. I mentioned gratitude. Some people don't do a stream of consciousness writing. They just do a gratitude list every day, or 3 things I'm thankful for, or write down what I'm appreciative of today. So that would be a way to have a regular journaling practice. And then a lot of people have found a lot of luck with bullet journaling. So that might be something that you look into. That's a whole system, and it has a whole methodology behind it. And it's a way for you to organize and have a little bit of structure, but without the structure of something pre-printed for you. So that's my advice and my tips for journal lovers. Let's talk about if you're journal curious. You know about journaling, or you've heard of the benefits, you want to try, and here come the reasons why a lot of people say they can't or won't continue to journal. I don't have time. I don't know what to write. I've tried it before. It didn't work. I don't like routines. I can't do something the same every single day, or I'm worried about my privacy. So if any of those are the reasons that you haven't or don't journal, even though you do believe in the benefits, consider that there are ways to overcome all of those resistant thoughts. And the biggest encouragement that I can give you is for you to believe in the benefits and experiment. So if you're telling yourself that you don't have time, it would be a matter of, okay, well, where do I have time to journal? And are you thinking I don't have time to journal an hour a day? Maybe you could do the 1 line a day or the gratitude journal, right? So you can play around and experiment. If you're thinking, I don't know what to write, maybe you would be a great candidate to use a prompted journal or to use journal prompts. If you've tried it before and didn't work, but you really do believe in the benefits, maybe you can experiment and give it time and let it evolve and let it develop in a way that works for you. If you're worried about privacy, then maybe you, instead of writing a journal, maybe you write about a fictional character, or maybe you carry the journal with you and you never let it out of your possession. I mean, I'm sure all of us could brainstorm and come up with ways to overcome any of these resistant thoughts. And I really think it just comes down to you believing in the benefits and wanting those for yourself, and then being willing to experiment. So there are some other, what we might consider non-traditional ways that you can journal. And I of course talk about my daily journaling practice, but we can do it episodically. So starting at the left-hand side of this 3rd bullet point here, you can journal when a specific episode happens. So for example, if you catch yourself or you notice yourself people pleasing, and you think, oh, why did I do that again? I hate it when I, put other people's needs in front of my own and I'm just trying to make other people happy. That would be like a specific episode that you might want to grab a sheet of paper or grab a blank notebook or grab a specific journal and sit down and journal about that episode. You can also do sporadic journaling when you think about it, when you remember, when you notice it. This is very helpful for the person who's routine averse. So you're not telling yourself, I can't or I won't journal. You're telling yourself, I do journal when it comes up, when it flows, when it feels in alignment. And then you do journal at that sporadic event, right? I also really encourage annual journaling. So I have a birthday practice that I do once a year. And basically what I do, instead of a New Year's resolution on my birthday every year, I look back at what I've created or accomplished or achieved since the last year. I write that list down, and then I make a list of what I hope to accomplish, achieve, create by my next birthday next year. And I've been doing this practice for a few years now. And so it's been really interesting to be able to flip from one list to the next to see what I thought I would do, what I did end up doing, how I did so much more or different than I thought I would do. So that is an annual journaling practice, and it's amazing. There's also a monthly journaling practice that you can do where you just answer monthly interview questions and you just interview yourself once a month at the same time every month. And that way you get the benefit of seeing the patterns month over month and getting a check-in with yourself once a month, but it's not an expectation that you do it daily or regularly or for a specific amount of time every week. It's just a monthly appointment with yourself. And then if you don't like, freestyle and paragraph style writing, and you're not like a stream of consciousness writer, I have a journal, and you can find other journals too that are list journals. So instead of writing in sentence formats, you just answer a prompt in a list, and that's your journaling. And it's very effective and very interesting, and you still get some of the benefits of journaling. Okay, what if you're not a journaler? What if you don't like to write and you don't want the clutter of paper or books? So there are so many alternatives to journaling. You have so many other options. You can call it something else. It doesn't have to be called journaling if that's what's turning you off about it. You can just have a notebook and just tell yourself, oh, I'm making notes. I'm just taking notes about what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, what's going on in my life. It's just my notebook, and these are just my notes. You could call it a brain dump. It's you taking all the thoughts, the jumble of thoughts in your brain, and just dumping them out on paper, just so that you can see them and create that distance for yourself and have that objectivity for yourself. Another word for this that a lot of coaches use is thought download. So again, it's just, this is my time where I'm just writing down all of the thoughts that I'm having. I'm just writing them down on paper so that I can see them in front of me. And again, going back to that privacy situation, if you are worried about someone reading your journal, instead of writing about yourself in the first person, you could write about a character in the third person. And that might help you overcome some resistance that you might have about writing a journal. If you're writing a story or a novel about a character and you let the plot unfold as your own life unfolds. So that might be a fun and creative way to do it. There's other ways that you can journal that don't fit into the typical traditional way that we think about journaling. So for many years, I carried around with me a non-chronological journal. It was a beautiful notebook, and I loved using it for personal development exercises and to make lists and to write down quotes that I heard and to brainstorm. And I did all sorts of things in this beautiful notebook that fit into my purse. And I realized, I really came to rely on it, and I really enjoyed having all of those thoughts and encouragement and motivation and inspiration all in one beautiful notebook. And that was a non-chronological journal. So that would be a way you could do it too. Another non-traditional journaling practice that I did before I started my writing was that I had a little app on my phone, and every day at the same time, it would pop up a reminder for me, and it had a little template, and it just had like 5 or 6 questions, quick answer, quick entry questions like, how are you feeling right now? What's your mood? What happened today? What are you listening to or watching today? What's bugging you right now? Just little things like that. And it was so quick to answer. I could even answer at a stoplight if I were in my car. Not that I did, but it was just so effortless. And I really enjoyed that I had that collection of quick entries on my phone, which I could then download onto a spreadsheet too, by the way. If you can still get the benefits that I've been talking about of noticing your thoughts and getting some objective feedback about your thoughts, even without putting pen to paper, and we all have been talking about this tonight, you can coach and get coached. And that would be a way that you can get some of those benefits, even if you're not a journaler. And then I want you to think about what ways that you can use a journal or a notebook for other purposes to benefit your life. So maybe you could give a journal or a notebook to someone in your life who loves to write things down, who is a note maker or a list maker. Maybe you use a notebook or a journal to get organized, to organize your finances or your business contacts or your work things. You can use a journal. There are a lot of funny journals that are kind of tongue-in-cheek or kind of witty that can help you get a little objectivity from your thoughts, like a revenge book. There's so many fun and different types of journals that you can look into. So I do want to mention some possible downsides of journaling, just in case this comes up for you, and just so you're aware that if you only write about the negative things that are happening, and some people don't like journaling for this reason because they find themselves just rehashing and reinforcing and spinning on the negatives. If you only write those negative things, you're reinforcing it, and then you might even be believing it without question. So there's an important second step there, which is write it down, see it objectively, and then question it, explore it, dissect it, give it equal airtime to a positive thought, think of the alternative, right? So you're getting both halves of it, not just the negative. And then the other possible downside of journaling are people who have a routine of journaling, but they only write down like a boring report. Like, yesterday I went to work, it was raining, my coworker did this, I saw this, I feel this way. The only real benefit from that journaling entry that I just shared with you is that I feel this way. That would be the part that would need to be developed and explored and expounded upon. So that's not a great way to journal. And then the opposite of that too is like, everything is amazing, I feel so wonderful, life is great, everything is perfect. If it's not really true, that really is just an exercise in fiction writing, which has its place, which is great. But even if you think about our best works of fiction in the world, they always did have some kind of conflict or tension or a villain or an obstacle that the hero had to make it through. So I would say if you find yourself writing boring reports or sugarcoating your writing, open up with some of the different things that I've mentioned. So for example, consider the different types of journaling you could do. Maybe if you find yourself doing either of those two downsides that I just mentioned, maybe back it up and only journal episodically about a specific episode, or only journal when you're really feeling it, not out of obligation or out of routine. Journal for a specific purpose, like I talked about, like on your birthday or to do a monthly check-in. And if it's working for you and your journaling practice evolves, then yes, you can journal daily so that you can get the benefits. And try all sorts of different techniques. You can try to use prompts, a prompted journal. You can make lists. You can have a different journaling activity that you do on different days of the week or month. So there are a lot of ways to mix it up. And I've got a lot more examples for you if you want to check in with me and find out. And then finally, if you do believe in the benefits, I would definitely encourage you to make journaling a priority in your life so that you can receive those benefits. I have felt them. I love them. That's why I talk about journaling all the time. And that's why I really encourage other people to journal, and why I support other people in their journaling. So a couple of the ways that I can support you in your journaling, if you're curious, here are the slides for you. Obviously, you can sign up for 52 journal prompts. As soon as you sign up, you'll receive an email after you confirm that you asked for it. You have to go into your junk mail or spam folder and make sure that you opt in, but you will receive 52 journal prompts that you could use once a week or every single day for a few months. And then you'll also receive an email from me once a month with other information and inspiration about journaling. I also have a daily journal prompt Facebook group where every single morning a new journal prompt pops up for you. You're welcome to write about it, think about it. You can answer in the group if you want. That's kind of like a public form of journaling in the comments. You can modify it, you can skip it, you can save it for later. It's all open and up to you. And I have a few podcast episodes all about journaling and my own journaling journey and the evolution that I've gone through with my journals, so I can share those links with you. Finally, I have a journal and notebook shop with 200 plus journals in it. So I know you can find a journal that can meet your needs or give you some inspiration or motivation. Or if you're a non-journaler, it'll make a great gift for someone who you love. Thank you so much for watching this. And if you need bonus ideas, or if you have questions, comments, suggestions, or any other ideas, you could reach out to me. My email address is hi@bexb.org. That's hi@bexb.org. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.